Portobello Market in Notting Hill, West London, is one of the most famous street markets in the world. Its eclectic community, unique vibe and vast range of antiques, clothes and food have made this area one of London's most popular tourist attractions. Notably, the market has gained recognition and praise from filmmakers, pop stars to renowned photographers, thus highlighting that the humble highway has indeed struck a chord in the hearts of many. With evidence of migrant settlers living and working side by side, Portobello Road Market is considered to be the quintessential cultural melting pot of London. But despite the joys, is there a baleful wind blowing through this famed Western Front? Is Portobello really facing untold dangers of an economic kind? If so, what are the governing bodies doing to ease these concerns? And has toiling under the media spotlight had an adverse effect on business? This documentary seeks to give a voice to those who belong to the real Notting Hill set and hope to obtain answers from those who know it best. And maybe, along the way, begin to decipher the mystique surrounding Portobello Road Market and why both past and present residents have fought tooth and nail to preserve its wonder. It's not ironic that Portobello Road Market is home to a number of small antique stores, for its history is as rich and as old as some of the artefacts displayed in the shop windows. The Notting Hill we see today is a far cry from its rural roots of the 1700s, with hayfields, orchards, and pigs roaming freely under the watchful eyes of the farmers. Portobello started out as a village, and much to the relief of its residents, it cheerfully remains one still.
To me, the most invisible people are the people who are the backbone of the market, which is the stallholders. They've been there 150 years. They are fourth generation, they are invisible to people, and they are the most authentic thing here. But what we have here is something so much more valuable. We have a sort of human biodiversity. We have an ecosystem of people that has taken 150 years to develop. When this area was first developed, there were bankruptcies. There were always poor people. There were gypsies camping around All Saints Church. There were people from before the First World War, Jewish from the pogroms. There have always been immigrant communities who've come here because it was a cheap place and they found people welcoming. It's always been cosmopolitan. You've got a degree of integration of community that I don't think you have anywhere else on earth. People with different races, religions, incomes, what else can you say, who identify with their community. That doesn't happen fast, like an ecosystem doesn't happen fast. And unfortunately, the council, they all live in the south of the borough, the governing sector, with the best of their intentions, and they're not all evil. I think they truly don't understand that because they don't live it. We live it. You live it.
When I came here in 1970, the whole place was full of political activity. Up in All Saints, there was the Black Panther movement. This was the beginning of the Gay Liberation Front, beginning of the gay movement. It's very cosmopolitan. There's all nationalities here, and we have the wonderful Portobello Market, which has the most exotic fruits and vegetables you can imagine. Yes, it's a very nice place to live.
First of all, I live in this area and I'm trading in this area as well. Just beautiful place to be in. And the people around here, they are really very nice people, like artists, musicians, quite artistic area.
I always used to listen to Blur. I was a big Blur fan, and I know Damon Albarn lives here, and in some of his songs he used to refer to this area. And even the last single they just released is also about Portobello Road and Ladbroke Grove. So I ended up here because I really wanted to live here in the end, because I just thought there was something musical going on here. I just recently discovered that the integration of especially Caribbeans started mainly here in the UK, and with the Notting Hill Carnival, and also with some of the groups, music groups like The Clash, who integrated Jamaican influences in their music. And all this you can still see in the area. I think it's very well it's quite well balanced. I don't think there's any racial issue, as far as I know. I don't know, but I see all kinds of diverse people living, harmoniously together.
The unique vibe regularly described by the locals also transcends to the marketplace.
It is one of the most wonderful places on this earth. We get everybody from all over the world, of all types and kinds, rich, poor, Chinese, Scots, Icelanders, Americans, you name it. They eventually, Peruvians, they turn up here, and they spend their money. They love it.
Because of the council market, it's more better organised. Like when we go to other markets, like a private market or somewhere, you get vans parking in the middle, you can't load properly, unload properly, and it's rubbish everywhere. So it's more cleaner, it's more better and more organised.
Every Saturday the whole world comes here. Every single culture, every single person, man, woman, dog, cat, everybody's down here on the same day. It's awesome. This market's been going for hundreds of years. It's got name checked in Notting Hill. Everybody comes down here. 5 different languages every Saturday are looking for the gate, the door and the bookshop. This is the market. This is the place to be. I mean, I've been down Camden Market and Spitalfields, and it's not got the same vibe. It's not got the same authenticity. I'd say 80% of our customers are tourists, and they love the food. I mean, you can see sort of right in your face. It's sort of food entertainment, food theatre, if you like. Tourists like us. We're very chatty and chirpy and flirty, and the tourists seem to love that sort of interaction. But so do the locals. We're very popular with locals. We've got a lot of repeat customers. We love it. We love everyone. But we've got great neighbours as well. Both of our neighbours, our traders are excellent. We get along very well. There's a great banter. And I think when you've got that going, anybody who's passing by, customers, they really catch on to it. They like to be around, market banter. If everybody's standing around looking suicidal, then nobody's really going to come and buy your stuff, are they?
I'm a trader in Portobello, but I'm also a musician, write music, play the piano, I make art. I don't know where I get the energy from, haha. But so I'm not only a sole trader, but I trade here. I feel that this is still a real market, not a boring place with too many rules.
However, the market, which was once lined with independent shops, is now sharing its space with global chain stores. The arrival of shopping mall Westfield is also symbolic of the changes taking place in the area. These new developments have received mixed reviews.
I have lived here most of my life and I was born here, but I see differences in this area itself, from when I was young. Developers want to come into the area. They recently wanted to knock down that whole block down there and build apartments and underground parking, and there was a big campaign for it to not go ahead. They wanted to knock down that whole block, which is obviously part of Portobello Road, and that was down to a few of the councillors around here campaigning hard for it not to go ahead. All the local shops, the little shops have gone. It's turning into just one long coffee bar along here. It's full of coffee shops and a few chain stores and that. But it's more before, where it was just like little privately owned shops, independent shops. It's becoming more like a high street now. And also the market is going. The market stalls, which to me was fundamental to Portobello Road. It's part of Portobello Road. It's got a long history.
It's always been great in this area. But now even that has been pushing out. Like, for instance, the Tabernacle. Before the Tabernacle was the Tabernacle, I remember when it was a derelict building, and we used to go there, and like everybody used to just go there and start painting up the place, and we take it over and use it as a place where we can go. And it gets so big now that it's all different people take it over now. You know what I mean? And now, for you to go in the Tabernacle and buy a meal, if you don't have £11 in your pocket for a breakfast, you can't go in there. You know what I mean? And it's just the yuppies and everybody else in there. So we just push out. It's very small minority, like the Mangrove Steel Band. They are there, and that's about the only foothold we have in there. Yeah, they call it the Carnival Village now.
I remember when I was growing up, The market stretched like from right at the top of Portobello Road down to bottom, or whichever way you like to say, from up there down to there. Now it's just less and less stalls, and it's losing that. And for me, it's quite sad growing up here. I think for someone that's just moved into the area, they don't even know the significance and the history of the Portobello Market. They've come and just seen it how it is now, because there's a few market stalls left, fruit and veg stalls on this road here, that have been passed down through generations, quite a few generations. And I think they're the ones that are really feeling it most.
We want to keep Portobello the vibrant as it is, so we can have tourists coming here. 90% of revenue comes from the tourists. Only 10% that comes from us. So we want to make that into 100%. We don't want to have big stores coming here, no. It's all political thing, basically. A lot of big stores are coming, and I'm sure they're paying more money to the council, saying that if we improve, we give this much money to the council to improve this area. Little shops can't afford that, you know. Little shops here literally rely on tourists, and if the tourists don't come, the shops will close and people will lose their jobs. And I think that's terrible. They're actually scared of big stores here.
I think there's like a struggle, like a kind of a fight against big corporations to buy out this area, basically. And there's I think there's quite a powerful and courageous committee trying to keep them out. They don't really succeed always. I think there are some shops that come through and they're too big for this area. And they're trying to save the small markets and the small shops.
Save the Portobello Market is a growing movement which has gathered many followers on its Facebook page.
They just do not know how to cope with this level of public criticism. The Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea is a 4-star council. That means it is officially perfect. Their greatest ability over the last many, many years has been to control the agenda, to control the press. But in the age of the internet, they can't do it anymore, and they really don't know where to turn. So what they do is attack the public.
There's always trying to change it. They're always trying to get rid of the market, and there's always a big fight to stop it. There's some houses down the end of Portobello Road. They're always under threat of being pulled down, and they're rebuilding and going to rebuild an estate where a lot of the residents will be pushed out of the area. So there's always that going on. I hope it won't happen. They're always wanting to change things, which they call modernisation, and in actual fact is some form of deterioration.
You can see like our income more or less the same, but the expenses is going a little bit up. I've seen like our fellow trader in the antique market is been affecting them, and they ask us to join like in a Facebook, and I even have joined to make a complaint, because at the end of the day I know what they feel like, because if someone powerful come in, you're going to be out anyway.
However, according to some, the changes on Portobello Road were bound to happen. This enviable postcode is a retailer's dream. It's also home to one of the biggest street festivals in Europe, the Notting Hill Carnival.
We come to get on board, so get your friend and jump up, boy. We come to take out rap, so get your rap and wave up, boy. We come to free up, so come let we mash up the place. When the soca heavy brain, we jump all over other Spain. You know we foot can't take this train. We don't feel no pain. We on the road same time again. Jump up in the sun.
And if that isn't enough to bring the punters in, Hollywood beckoned with its release of US blockbuster Notting Hill and the famed Blue Door on Portobello Road. The area went global. But what has tourism done to this territory?
We read about it. It was very nice to visit. So we came down here to look if it's true.
Notting Hill is actually, a lot of people around the world have seen it. And everybody says to me when I go to Los Angeles or Mumbai, said, "Oh, Portobello, Notting Hill, you live near Notting Hill where that film was made." I said, "Yeah, that's true." So obviously everybody knows what Notting Hill is according to the film. It's brought loads and loads of tourists here. And I think a lot of films should be made in Portobello. just to get that, say yes, Portobello does exist and what the Portobello is all about, and this area, Ladbroke Grove, what it's about.
It's lovely to have people filming here. This is one of the most vibrant, dynamic, diverse parts of London, and I think it's great when people pick that up and use it as the backcloth to films and cultural images. But remember, this is also a residential area. It is a leading tourist destination. It's one of the most exciting streets in Great Britain. The council has a duty to try and maintain that very delicate ecosystem between shops, between traders, between residential properties, and try to keep everything in balance and attractive and working in the right direction. What we don't want is Portobello Road withering and dying, but we do want it to evolve dynamically.
It has positive and negative effects. More tourists come to the area, so I suppose there's more trade. But at the same time, the property values rose, which meant a lot of the residents had to move.
We have some customer, they coming asking us about where is the travel shop and where is the movies being shot. Till like almost every Saturday and Friday, we get the same question. So I think it has some effect, obviously. It is affecting the area as a consumer. We are like, for me, I am a normal person anyway. So you found like a designer shop, designer clothes, and even like Coffee Republic, which is quite expensive. Before we used to have like the local shops and the local traders. Unfortunately, they keep disappearing.
I've seen a lot of changes from Hassan Carriage carrying vegetables and thing here when it was brick road. Before they put all this thing here, it was Hassan Carriage used to carry the stalls and them, right? And it's a lot of changes over the years. It's so much different changes. It's good for some people and it's not good for some. Because before that, they used to have like West Indian vegetables and everything selling on the street. You know, you can't find that. You have to go to Shepherd's Bush Market or Alsden or them place to find these things now.
Because we only trade Saturdays and it's a big tourist day. I know the guys during the week are feeling the pinch, but there's a congestion charge as well, which the mayor promised he'd take down a year ago and hasn't. That's definitely hurting.
The area's popularity has ensured that housing rents are high, with the cost of living not trailing far behind. However, it's argued that it's the local buyers that keep the traders in business and not the tourists who seldom buy anything. But with rising costs, locals are being forced to move to cheaper areas.
In the place that I live in, the fella bought it 25 years ago for £59,000. It is now going for between £1.5 million and £2 million. So it's an amazing increase just from what a movie has done to an area. It's like a double-edged sword. It's brought popularity to the Notting Hill Gate, but it has honestly brought people losing jobs because of rents getting raised. People have to move out of the area, and it makes it very difficult for people that are stable and comfortable. And all of a sudden, this big change changed their life.
Rent is quite high. And then there's not enough parking for the traders, so we have to go down the streets, look for on the meters, like paying display ones, and then adding that on the rent, it works out quite a lot. For one day, it's a lot. Mostly, there's a lot of tourists that come here. It's more tourists than local people, so that's a bit better for us. But the local people aren't spending as much as they used to. A couple of years ago, there was local people as well and tourists, but now it's just like literally nearly all tourists here. You hardly see any local people.
In 40 years, I've seen lots of changes. Every generation it changes, from going back to the 50s and the 60s when the West Indians came, and then the Indians came, and then the Portuguese and the Spanish and the Moroccans and the Turkish people, and now the Eastern Europeans. It changes every 10 years, you might say you get a whole new population. Well, I find that the weekend you can do all the business you can, but during the week I probably find that lots of people don't cook every day during the week. They probably have takeaways or ready meals or things like that, so the weekday trade is definitely gone, Well, no men go home to lunch today, do they? Everybody has a bite out. There's been a shift of working class people moving out and the rich people moving in the properties, that's changed dramatically in the last 10 years. No, the tourists are no good to us. They don't spend any money. They live in hotels. They're a waste of time, basically. Or they come along and ask 1,000 questions if they can't. Like, if they don't know what that is, they just, oh, what's this, you know? No, tourism is no good to us, not out this business.
There's a growing belief that the gap between the rich and the poor is widening, and Notting Hill residents have begun to notice something sinister taking place: the rise of gated communities. The exclusion is felt most acutely by those who remember how it used to be.
You've always had rich people here. You've had rich people since the very beginning, but rich people who wanted to live here. What you're beginning to get is the gating of communities. Muses are yuppified and they put a gate, electric gate at the end. That's the gating of Notting Hill. You know, that's what you don't want. They're buying out instead of buying in. People used to buy in. If they buy in, it improves the area. We got better delicatessens, we got better shops. You know, you don't not want that. And it is difficult to sustain a mixed community. But if you don't, you have first economic apartheid, and then, you know, kick them out, put them in, you know, do a demographic change, and you change the nature of the place. The place is the people. It's partly the buildings and the trees and things, you know, but it's essentially the people. And you just can't rebuild that so fast. Anybody who grew up here would know that.
The council doesn't really like or want to encourage gated communities. We think streets should be open and accessible, and what makes this neighbourhood splendid and what makes London splendid is that you can walk down most streets. It's very rare to find a completely gated off street, and it immediately makes that street less natural, less part of the surrounding community. So I think where the council can resist gated communities because they're public highways, then we try to do that.
Mix as far as different races and cultures concerned, yeah, but I think there's a sort of class mix as well. Like, you know, obviously there's a lot of money in the area, but sometimes you can feel there's a kind of division and it's getting wider.
They move everybody out of the area, you know. Even me, I've been living here from the time I came over to this country, which is 1968. And it's a struggle to find a place around here. You know what I mean? I have to be living in Hammersmith now.
First, I did not believe them, you know, but there's quite a lot of people who come back and say to me that, I'll say that, oh, we've been moved to a house in Willesden, and they never come back, you know. They moved them out that when they finish doing their place, they will come back, but they never did, you know. And the housing trust take over most of the house. They sold out some of the houses, or the flats and things like that, like, you know, like I said, most houses used to cost about £50,000 in this country. It was nothing less than £1 million now. You know, even more than, I mean, I go through the, what do you call them, the housing agents and look on their board, you see £1.4 million and things like that everywhere in the area, you know, so it's totally different.
Antiques art dealer and fierce campaigner for the market, Marion Gettelson, has strongly opposed the council on a number of issues. She believes they've done little to protect the market, the traders and the area as a whole.
There have always been changes. There's nothing the matter with change. Change is a natural state of being. But sadly, what we're looking at now is not change. It is the council, unfortunately, looking after the interests of large property developers rather than the interests of the community that they were elected and are paid to serve. They have no other master. I wouldn't describe myself as a main campaigner, just one of the noisy ones. What brings this about is that many of the antique dealers who were evicted, for instance, from the Lipka All Saints building, they were my friends. I've known some of them for 40 years. It's outrageous the way they've been treated. You know, and I have my own problems with the council. And as I said before, their duty is to protect the community, all the communities, including the world-famous community of antique dealers that are in this market. Far from being responsive, the council have turned on the antique dealers. They've turned on the people who've joined, the Facebook fans who've joined the campaign to support the market.
Nicholas Paget Brown, the local Conservative councillor for the borough, is in full support of welcoming wealthier residents to the area. He believes this will benefit local businesses.
Portobello Road is a very dynamic area and a very dynamic street, so there's constant changes in one sense. We are aware that it's one of the world's leading tourist destinations. Huge numbers of people come here, and one of the roles the council has to ensure that when they do come here they have a good time and that the street and the neighbourhood around it are operating efficiently, effectively for as many people as possible. And we set up something about 3 years ago following a meeting we had with a number of traders and shopkeepers in this area. We call it the Market Streets Action Group. It meets 3 or 4 times a year, and the idea is to look at problems, try and anticipate problems, deal with issues which relate to Portobello. And obviously some areas the council is very influential. We regulate and manage the market traders, people out in the street here with their pitches. We're not, however, the landlord, and we're not responsible for the commercial shop properties on each side of the road that you see. The council owns very few properties actually in the street.
Contrary to belief, Mr. Paddock Brown says his hands are tied when it comes to matters concerning planning agreements.
Our stance is that we think that there need to be changes to national planning law. The problem is that we are very constrained as a local authority over what we can permit and allow because planning law classifies virtually all shops as retail, and within retail there could be huge numbers of activity, and you can get the standard chain stores, the high street stores, and I think it would be a shame if Portobello Road became full of just looked like any other old high street. We put a petition on the number 10 Downing Street website during the period of the last government. We've now got a new, fresh Conservative Liberal coalition, and there's no doubt the council will be lobbying to see whether we can get changes to planning law. But there's no doubt those changes to planning law will have to be in the queue for changes to legislation, but it would then give the council more power to reject certain applications. There have been a lot of concerns about changes to the Antiques Arcade and changes of use to the shop, as you know, on the corner of Westbourne Grove and Portobello Road. The Council's Planning Committee has rejected the changes which have been made. So if you look at the outside of the building and some of the changes which have been made to it, they came back to the Council's Planning Committee for retrospective permission, and the Planning Committee has rejected them and turned them down. So there will have to be real changes to how the building looks. In terms of can we stop it changing from an antiques shop into a retail clothing shop, that's coming back to the point I was making about changes of use within one use class. And at the moment, the council does not have powers. We need to see a change in national legislation that will give more protection to, for example, antique shops, antiques arcades, and give councils more discretion over what changes they will allow. I think if you look at the policy changes which have occurred here since, for example, the Notting Hill race riots of 1958, there's no doubt that North Kensington has benefited enormously from overall growth and prosperity throughout the borough. But our job is to try and make sure that all of that prosperity, the money that comes in through visitors, through tourism, is actually fairly spread throughout the Portobello Road. So if, for example, we could get some major infrastructure improvements in the north part of Portobello, something, for example, like a Crossrail station, which we would love to see, that will bring in, I think, new money, fresh money, more spending into Portobello, and that should help to raise everybody's living standards.
He also added that market store rates were at similar levels to those trading in other boroughs.
So I don't think traders are being overcharged for their pitches. I think we've got a variety of charges. Some people have been here for generations, but I think the market at the moment is quite vibrant.
Interestingly, it's a view which is also shared by those who trade in the market.
In general, these store rents are not that expensive, you know. If it was privately owned, they'd probably be 3 times the price, you know. I know people who run private markets, the rents are much higher than the local council. You know, we create as much rubbish as you like and all gets thrown away, you know, there's no extra charge and things like that. I'm still here, I still get a living, so they haven't said the proof of the pudding's in the eating, isn't it? It wouldn't be if it was getting steadily worse, would I?
Well, I'm actually thinking of possibly moving to Portobello Road because the rent is lower. I think, hey, why am I actually paying such a high rent? I don't know, it's just greed. People who own this probably think, hey, I can even make more, so they raise it all the time. But the recession, I don't know. I mean, I think that's another question, of course. But if everybody starts to think that there's a recession, you know, there is a recession, you know. I don't experience a recession. You know, recessions are really good news for people with no money, like me, and no property, or people with loads of money who have created this recession anyway. So, I mean, I'm not going to think myself into a recession. If the rest of the world wants to do that, fine. So I haven't started there yet. So, but I was just simply thinking, hey, is it like really £20 a day there? And this is like 63. I mean, Spitalfields or other markets are even worse. But so I'm just thinking, hey, if it's cheaper, why should I not try? And it's in the sun.
But not all agree with what the local council have done in the past and what they plan to do in the future.
The problem is that the council has been run by one political party since this area was farmland. That's 150 years. The same guys have been entrenched. There was a chap who retired at these elections a week ago, and he first was elected to the council in 1956, and he's only just retired. Several others have been sitting in the town hall for over 40 years. It is the most astonishingly entrenched organisation you could possibly imagine. They have a view on life that's rather stuck, I would say, not even in the 1960s. They never got past the coronation of Her Majesty, but the rest of us have. They perceive anything that is not middle class and higher in its income bracket, say the top 10% of the population income-wise, as a sort of alien species. And North Kensington has traditionally been a poor area. It is no longer so, really, because we've got all sorts of bankers and film stars and models and media people come in. But what those people came for is the market. They chose to live here because of the market. They don't want to see it destroyed. If they'd wanted to buy a house in Knightsbridge, they'd have bought one. The council's idea, though, is to turn Portobello Road into something resembling King's Road or Oxford Street, clone retail, all the way up to the 2,000 or so flats that they intend to build in the very north of the borough, get a Crossrail station in, make that area as rich as Chelsea, and wipe away all vestiges of the traditional working class communities that live there. Just drown them out. And that is essentially the same thing that Dame Shirley Porter did in the 1980s, except slightly different technique. Instead of taking the flats off poor people and flogging them to rich ones, they're just going to drown the poor people, and just change the whole neighbourhood. They have no democratic remit for any of it. It's essentially the agenda of a small clique of these very, very entrenched councillors. And it's in absolute opposition to everybody in the neighbourhood.
From talking to the residents, it's clear they're under no illusions that change is imminent. So does this mean they're ready to welcome their very own King's Road or Notting Hill?
I think the danger is that it gets really lost, and I think it's tragic because what we've now got a kind of fusion of cultures, races, everything that has taken really long time to evolve, where people's first identification is with their community of being here rather than their racial or religious or social or economic identity as a primary thing. And this has got to be an important thing for the way future of the world. I mean, everybody could be learning it from here rather than destroying it or putting it in peril. The reason that South Africa is such a triumph is because there were white people who were part of the ANC, which Nelson Mandela did not forget. And, South Africa was for all South Africans. The recent Tutu shows that they've had, he's included all sorts of Africans of all backgrounds to describe the future of Africa. That has to be the way forward. Without that, we're at war with each other. We've got to respect all our differences. And here we do it. We do it. We don't feel, I don't feel white here. If I go to another area, I suddenly do. I behave in ways, and some people look at me a little bit, which here, nobody would bat an eyelid, and vice versa. I think that is a pinnacle of human achievement. It's happened throughout history in Sicily, in northern Spain. It happens periodically, and it gets lost. let us keep it, let us value it, let's preserve it for the treasure it is. This is the golden goose, not, or I won't say the name of the chain. It's not pounds, shillings and pence. It's got a much, much higher value than that, and the pounds, shillings and pence follow out of that, because it's something that you can't just simply replace.
In 5 years' time, it's going to look like just any other high street, whether it's Bond Street, Westfield, So we just don't want that.
Obviously, it's going to be like faceless high street, which is people don't like, and personally I don't like really. So here, as I said before, you found very interesting people, peaceful people. I mean, like not like greedy people try to make money. People try to make living actually, and still living in their own community with their own neighbors for years and years.
Well, my hope is that it's gonna stay very independent. I'm afraid it's gonna be difficult. You see already, I don't want to mention the names, but there are many like big names popping up here.
It's just going to look like a regular high street. You're going to have high street shops along here. You probably have a McDonald's, a KFC, stuff like that.
It probably changed a lot because this place across there, the developers are looking at it now to build lots of parades and new shops. Yeah, but be lots more restaurants and bars. There's 10 coffee shops down here now, and in Kensington Park Road there's 25 restaurants, And that's what's changed. That's what's really changed, They shouldn't really give licences to too many restaurants and coffee shops because that takes local traders away,
I like it as it is. But I think change is good. I like it as it is.
Well, the majority has spoken, but it's not surprising that preserving the market's uniqueness seems to be at the heart of everyone who lives, works or visits the borough, even those who stand to gain the most from the area's development.
I hope it will look to some extent like it looks now, having not lost its character, having this unique mix of all sorts of different things, market stalls, interesting shops, a vibrant street life, perhaps more arts, perhaps more culture coming into the area. I hope that there will be opportunities to redevelop and to improve some of the housing in the vicinity. I hope Portobello will have become in 5 years perhaps more of a London destination. We know that it's on lots of international tourist agendas, but we think it ought to become a special and exciting and vibrant part of London and on Londoners' agendas as well. And I hope that some of the improvements to the infrastructure, upgrading the underground, possibly seeing a crossrail station, development of the whole Kensal Green gasworks site will help us to keep the vibrancy that's essential to Portobello.
Well, I hope it is recognisably the same. I mean, I've lived here 50 years. My dad, 50 years before that. My family's been here 100 years. It's still recognisable. I hope of course, things change. Individual things change. That's part of a healthy, growing, living thing. But I hope it doesn't change beyond recognition. When I was young, your age, King's Road was an interesting road. Vivian Westwood had a shop, Look at it now.
There's only one word to describe what's taking place in Portobello Road Market: utopia. It's where the rich, the poor, the young and the old, black and white, male and female, can really work, play, relax, trade and prosper together. Unlike the synthetic developments being created by some local councils, this is an organic community, a truly eclectic village surviving in a homogenised city. And if the residents have their way, this is how it will always be.
There's something about the way I feel tonight, and it's a feeling I can't share. In case I'm made to feel unusual about the things I choose to care. Well, there